It's generally going to change our industry massively, and we're already implementing things like today and at the moment. For example, like we get inquiries from guests all the time who communicate with obviously us through those different platforms. Like we're implementing a system over the next month which handles all those inquiries without us having to do anything. It's autonomous, we train it, and it'll answer all the questions within all the channels, within WhatsApp, within our emails. It'll do all that autonomously and also handle all phone calls. Instead of us answering 20 calls a day, we might make one outbound call. So that just means we hire less staff, we're a lot more lean, and again, the issues are handled quicker because it's an AI.
So this is the Stronger Business Together podcast, where business owners learn from other owners. No theory, no gurus, just real journeys and overcoming real hurdles. Today, I'm joined by Dan Holland, who runs Signature Stays. And like any business owner, he's in that middle of building things, fixing things, and growing something that really matters to him. So Dan, welcome.
Thank you, Granger. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. I look forward to the podcast today and running through those bits you mentioned before.
Fantastic. So let's do Act 1, your business. In plain English, what does your business do?
Yes, great question. So we run a property management company specializing in short lets. So it's a short let management company where we work with landlords. We manage their properties, run them as short stays primarily, and then manage that entire kind of process for them. And essentially, like we offer kind of higher returns off the back of it because we're letting it on a nightly basis instead of like a traditional monthly kind of rental. And we essentially take care of the whole process for that, if that makes sense.
It does indeed. It does indeed. Who do you love helping? You talk about landlords. You know, what are they typically dealing with? What are they trying to achieve?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And especially prevalent at the minute with the recent regulation, which has just come in, the Renters' Rights Bill. So a lot of landlords are panicking about all the upcoming regulation. How does it affect them? What have they got to get in place? And how that kind of affects their returns, as well as obviously juggling all of the, should I keep this property? What are my other kind of options? How am I going to hand this down to my kids? So they're facing a lot of challenges. It's a very difficult time to be a normal landlord for people. So essentially, like we're trying to take that stress away from them, guide them down a different path, which is away from traditional rentals, a more short-term, medium-term letting, which is more lucrative and avoids a lot of the legislation, which is restrictive and also costs the landlords a lot more money.
Excellent. Well, taking some of my big problems away as landlords and bringing me more money. Fantastic. We definitely want that. So Dan, how did the business start? What was that original spark?
Yeah, really good question. So originally I was working in London for a financial consultancy company, Alvarez and Marshall. Like, good job, was enjoying it, but I think the realization hit about 3 or 4 months in that I don't really want to be doing this and working that corporate job for the rest of my life, which originally I thought that was me. I was going to be in London. I just thought that was going to be my path. Off the back of that, I started learning about property. As a family, we had and owned kind of properties our kind of entire life. So it was a natural kind of focus for me. Basically did a lot of training, invested a lot of money in my education. And then off the back of that, started transforming some of our properties, which are let out as single let long-term rentals, which were not doing that well. They were just covering face basically, and turn those all to service accommodation, like our short let kind of model. And off the back of that, they performed like really strongly. And then subsequently from that, we started managing properties for other landlords now. And essentially over the past 2.5 years, we built that up. And now we're exploring different regions of the UK. So we're managing basically anywhere from Birmingham direct down to London, Cornwall. We're based in Cheltenham ourselves. So basically expanding now and built out teams off the back of that. But it all started, me not liking my previous job and wanting to get out of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, fantastic. And what a change for doing that. And, that really good grounding within the family and understanding property, but then taking that to a whole new level and doing that short let and seeing the profits change and now growing a business around it. Fantastic. So what does the business look like today in terms of size and shape? Yeah.
So we're definitely in a growth period at the minute. We want to get to around 75 properties by the end of the year. We're currently managing around 35. So we're looking to onboard around 5-6 properties per month. Obviously, the team has grown significantly from the start. It was just myself, basically. From that, my brother's got on board, so he works full time. My mum's in the business pretty much full time now. So she's managed to transition from her previous dentistry work to work in the business most of the time now, which is very nice. And there's a few more people in the team as well. We've got an operations manager who works full time in our, like, we've got offices in Cheltenham now near the Brewery Quarter. So he's based there. And we've got a virtual assistant who works from abroad. And we have a London partner who's based in London, and we're always growing our team. We've got 2 new people joining next week as well. So we're very much like in the growth kind of cycle,
Yeah.
bringing people on, because basically we've got to cope with what's coming in the next 6 months, which is obviously dealing with a lot of leads which are coming in, and ultimately onboarding more properties. So we're just building up that base and that team now at the minute to then scale again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, what a fantastic growth, but real family affair as well as that growth has happened, and now you're reaching out and developing into other regions. Awesome. So, okay, why do customers pick you? How do you delight them then?
Yeah, really good question. So the way we differentiate ourselves is generally I try and do everything better as a company than everyone else. But to take that probably to a deeper level, like obviously we're, again, like a short let management company, right? There's other companies like us in the market, but we like to think we go an extra mile. So where we do our focus is we focus a lot on housing businesses, housing relocation stays, housing insurance claims when people need a home away from home after a fire or a flood, housing contractors. So we focus heavily on that market and building that relationship. So they're paying a nightly rate, but these people might stay for 1, 2, 3, 4, up to, we had stays up to 9 months last year, still paying that nightly rate, where most management companies would just stick the property on Airbnb, and it might do all right in the summer, or you might get a sporadic kind of, might do all right in the summer, then you get sporadic kind of stays during the winter. So it's not that all year round return, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we try to provide that all year round. So yes, we're really good in the summer, and we might do more shorter stays in the summer, but we have the flexibility to then transition to longer stays with the other partners we built up in the industry. So yeah, it's not just, short lets really. The real value we add is more the medium term stays, which is why we call it's called serviced accommodation, because we're providing a home away from home with all the essential services so that people can stay for a longer period of time rather than just being in a hotel, if that makes sense. So obviously we're heavily investing in our relationships that we built up. So we have all these contacts at insurance companies and agencies who facilitate all these long-term stays. We do a lot of outreach for these. So that's where we in terms of actual delivery and earning people more money, that's really where we kind of stand out. And yeah, we always try and we're landlords ourselves. We've been through all the struggles, so we can relate to these kind of people and really like building relationships personally with landlords. So most property management companies don't have an office, like a physical facility where a landlord can actually go in and speak to a human. Everyone's kind of moved away from the high street to now online, if that makes sense.
Right.
So where you see the high streets dominated with estate agents, you don't see them with short-term rental kind of management companies at all, really. So for us, having that presence on the high street where, if you want to come and speak to us in person, we're not hiding, we're not going anywhere. You can come and have a genuine conversation. We have that as well. So I suppose, the delivery aspect, but also the physical kind of presence. And kind of any location we're taking on is we have someone in that location to obviously speak with landlords.
Awesome. No, I love that. And that both physical as well as online, that ability for people to come and talk to you, adding that extra service. But short-term stays through other types, not just Airbnb. I think that's a really interesting business model that you're developing and growing there. So you talked about leads. You talked about lots of leads coming in. How do you go about generating leads normally?
Yeah, good question. Really good question. And this is something we're investing in all the time, new systems with AI and things. I can touch on that in a bit. But a lot of leads come through referrals. And as we grow and take on more properties, we get referrals from different kind of people, whether that's our existing landlords or also people we partner with, deal sourcers who source deals for other people. But then once the project's finished, then they need someone to manage it. So that's the referral aspect. We got a lot of leads from Facebook ads. So that's probably our main lead generation tool. So Karen, my mum, does a lot of the videos for that. And then we probably get 2 or 3 leads a day, which come through the Facebook leads. And then, otherwise it's other leads we do, like advertising magazines. There's physical marketing as well. So there's magazines in locations, newspaper articles. We have some physical signs up in different locations. So a real kind of mix. And where we're doubling down is using AI to bolster that because it can scrape data from all different kinds of sources now and then help us process those leads quicker.
Yes.
So that's the next step. But yeah, currently probably our main lead generation is probably Facebook ads.
Awesome. It's not often I meet people that are successful through Facebook ads. Fantastic. Well done. So what are you aiming for the business in the next 12 months and why?
Yeah, really good question. So as we're on this like rapid kind of growth cycle, so we want to try and by the end of this year, we want to try and be at around 75 properties basically. But on a broader kind of theme of things, it's setting up the business like properly. So obviously we've got a load of people now involved, which is essentially allows me to move myself back and think about the broader picture of the business. So taking my time is probably one big thing as well. So I can focus on the bigger picture growth, but also making sure everyone's got like a clear, dedicated role. Like we have the resource now. Like previously it started with me doing everything. Then my brother came on board. So he dealt with all the guest communication. So it took that off my plate. And now we've got other people on board who help me deal with the landlords. So like there's essentially like, I'm essentially trying to remove myself from the entire process, probably over the next year as well. And then it becomes more managing team and building something that's not reliant on me being there, if that makes sense.
It does. Yes. No,
So that's probably
that's really
big
good.
goal.
Yeah, and that's a natural cycle of business growth and development. You know, we're the center of everything, and then over time we try to extract ourselves by bringing more people in. The biggest trick is actually making sure you do extract yourselves and you build the systems and the team around you to make that happen. Because time and time again, you know, as we help business owners at the Stronger Business Together, we see that actually business owners get stuck in the middle, and we need to fix that often and make that happen. But yeah. Great. We'll look forward to seeing what happens next over the next 12 months. So let's move on to Act 2 now on the journey of the business. So in a business, as we're growing and developing, there are highs and lows all the time. What are some highs and lows that you could share with us?
Yeah, and it's constant highs and lows, more probably lows than highs, I would say. So yeah, well, I suppose the first high would be when I got the first payment from someone who stayed in the property and bookings started flowing in. I was like, this actually works, when I probably didn't 100% believe it until you actually saw the money coming into your bank account at the end of the day. So that was probably like the number one high, which sticks out. And then lows, there's no real major ones. It's just day-to-day stuff happens. Things go wrong. I know people in the business are unhappy, cleaners unhappy, maintenance person's unhappy, landlords unhappy. So it's just dealing with those day-to-day. I wouldn't say there's no real major lows as such, but just more like constant, like, it's more like an up and down kind of cycle that you just got to stay level with, I suppose.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it has got hard and difficult, you know, what have you learned about yourself and your business in those times?
Yeah, you just got to keep showing up at the end of the day. Most days are going to be pretty crap, or you'll find a challenge and you just got to work through it. And then that's when you earn the good days, essentially. Well, that's what I've kind of found. It's just showing up every day, working hard, dealing with those issues. Don't get too emotional over it. Things happen, and then just keep showing up, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Don't get too emotional about it. So very true. Yes, we can get to, and often those things are very short term. They're only happening right here, right now. We can fix that and move on, but yeah, we can get a bit wound up about that. One of the things that you're doing is you're taking on people. One of our principles is about growing your people so they can grow your business. So what have you learned about people over the last year and developing them?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's been really good because I've been on this journey with my family. I've been on it with my brother, with my mum. Like, we've kind of started this thing and grown it together, which has been like really nice. So yeah, obviously making them come and essentially be in the business and work, we're all essentially aligned in the same direction, basically. So that made it initially probably really easy, that we're all working to the same goal. We're all essentially, living together, still a family as such. So that was probably easiest to start with. But then obviously as you bring on external people, it's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
So we've got really lucky. Our main operations manager, Aaron, is brilliant. So we did quite a long hiring process there, but he's turned out amazing. But we have had some virtual assistants. So they work abroad essentially and deal with a lot of the guest communications. We've had some poor ones of them where, they're difficult to manage. Like, it's very difficult to manage, and you have to be constantly on top of them. And they're never going to share the same passion, and you can't really expect them to, but you want them to have a certain level of, I don't know, commitment to the role. So we've
Yeah,
been through a few different virtual assistants, like we're hiring someone new next week. So I suppose it's, yeah, you can do all the checks you want, but then when they join, that's the real kind of test, isn't it? And like
yeah.
sometimes it can work well with like Aaron, our operations manager, and then sometimes we've had bad experiences when we've hired more guest service kind of roles. And it's, yeah, it's a process we need to get, like for me, I need to get better at, because over the next 5 years as we grow, it's like that's probably the most important role.
It is.
It's hiring the right people. So for
Yeah,
me, it's like I need to continue to like level up and improving these kind of processes. And like for me, I constantly get mentored by people who are probably 5 years ahead of me, so I can ask these kind of questions. But yeah,
yes.
I suppose it's all part of that kind of growth cycle and learning to deal with people.
It is absolutely, and learning how to find the right people is one of the biggest skills for a business to allow the growth to take place. I follow some of Stephen Bartlett's stuff, and he talks about he's a recruitment expert rather than the business owner. It feels at times, but he's constantly checking that his team are strong at the recruitment. He doesn't do a lot of the recruitment himself anymore, but he's always sense checking, because that's one of the most important aspects of a business for growth. So what's maybe, a habit that you've put in place in the business that keeps you all strong together?
Yeah, really good question. We have weekly meetings, which I think's really good. We started those this year. So yeah, it's actually today now because we had a bank holiday yesterday. Every Monday morning, yeah, just get together for an hour, like recap of kind of what's happened over the last week, any challenges we found, and what we heading for this week, what we want to achieve. And then everyone's aligned in the same direction, and then we can push forward together. So that's definitely helped, just having those weekly meetings, I would say, uh, just to ensure everyone's in the know, because otherwise you keep cracking on and then 3 or 4 weeks later, no one knows what everyone else is doing and you're moving in different directions. So probably that alignment piece is definitely something we've worked on.
Yeah. No, it's important to bring everybody together and help everybody to understand that alignment, that structure, but also just learn from each other and those little problems that have taken place and how we fix them and what we're doing. Fantastic. So we believe in also simplifying your business, the stronger business together. So what did you maybe remove from the business that has brought energy back and simplified things?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I suppose we're probably going through that process at the minute. Like there's a lot of moving parts, and now we're like simplifying this into, okay, we've got what, 5, 6 clear roles here. This covers the entire operations of the business, whether that's dealing with the leads, whether that's the operations side of things, dealing with customers. Basically, there's a set number of clear roles, and everyone essentially has those responsibilities to follow. Uh, so it's clear that, okay, you're doing this, these are your roles and responsibilities, and everyone's pulling like their weight in their own area, rather than there being so much crossover and then there's no clear focus for individual. So that's why we're trying to nail this at the minute. And that's with new hires to fill any gaps we've had, but also repositioning people in the team to get the most out of them. So they're all just, yeah, focusing on their roles rather than mixed, and it gets a bit messy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Bring in that structure and organization and
Yeah.
make sure things aren't missed through the cracks, as they say, as you grow. So you mentioned AI already. Where's AI genuinely helped you, and where's it probably been a distraction?
Really good question. It's generally going to change our industry massively. And we're already implementing things like today and at the moment that are going to change it massively. So, for example, like we get inquiries from guests all the time who communicate with obviously us through loads of different platforms. Like we're implementing a system over the next month which handles all those inquiries without us having to do anything. It's autonomous. We train it. It's a knowledge base. We build it up, and it'll answer all the questions within all the channels, within WhatsApp, within our emails. It'll do all that autonomously as long as there's an onboarding kind of process with that, and also handle all phone calls. So we get a lot of phone calls from guests asking the same
Yeah,
questions. What's the lockbox code? Where's the lockbox created? What's the checkout time? Check-in. Probably 90% of calls are kind of repetitive answers that we have to, again, pick up the phone. Takes a lot of our operational managers' time. It's the same answer every time. So if basically is the AI is going to, in our voice, you can clone it to your voice if you want to answer a lot of those questions. And then if it can't answer anything, then it will just like ping us a message saying, okay, we couldn't actually answer this guest inquiry. And then we make the outbound call, if that makes sense. So instead of us answering 20 calls a day, we might make one outbound call. So that just means we hire less staff, we're a lot more lean. And again, the issues are handled quicker because it's an AI. So that's kind of one of the main things at the moment, but also kind of lead generation, as I touched on earlier. So building tools, like we've got a tech guy who we work with, we're building out over the next year. We've kind of got a roadmap of how we're going to make our business more efficient in all the different areas. And it's starting with like obviously the leads, because that's bringing on properties is the most important thing for obviously our business. How do we get all those leads? Where are all these landlords coming from? Let's sit down and work this all out. So then we can scrape data from here, scrape data from there, put it all into one area where we can track it all better. So if we get 150, 100 leads a month, instead of it being kind of everywhere or no one really knowing where all the data is or where the pictures for properties are, it's all in one centralized location and we can manage that process a lot easier. So yeah, it's going to massively change our industry, but it's efficiency, right? You're still doing the same kind of tasks. It's just making you and your employees more efficient and means you don't have to hire as many. So it's just essentially anything that's a repetitive task is just going to be replaced.
Brilliant. I love that. And that's that real power of AI. It can deal with the simplicity activity at the moment. And there'll be more complexity it'll be able to do as you train it more, as you take that forward. So I just love that answer, what you've talked about. And really excited to see how that grows and develops for you. Thank you for sharing that. So when the business gets busy and there's lots of things to do, how do you focus on making sure you're doing the right things? How do you keep the business healthy even when it's getting really busy?
Yeah, and that's probably for me as like the leader of it all is the most difficult thing. I've got an endless to-do list. I suppose I've got to become content with not being able to clear that every day. But yeah, focusing on the high value tasks. And like for me, it's like blocking out time to focus on certain things. At the start of the week, what are the kind of main 3 things I want to kind of achieve, make sure I get those done. And then blocking out time in the week and literally turning my phone off, have it on do not disturb unless there's something really important, then the team can phone me. Because otherwise it's like I get so many calls, so many emails. I just don't have the time to focus on the high value tasks. So yeah, a lot of planning and then removing distractions, really.
Well done. That's fantastic. I work with a number of clients who just to try to get them there would take me 6 months or more. So you're doing it already. Awesome. Well done. So let's move on to Act 3 now, our hurdles. So what's the hurdle question you've chosen for us to have a conversation about today?
You're going to have to remind me of that. Sorry, I forgot already.
So we talked about the variability in performance across our team and how we would go about trying to manage that situation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah. And again, this is probably something we've maybe started to see or going to see more of. And especially in like, for us, it's mainly going to be prevalent in like sales department. You're always going to have people who are better at sales and high performers, low performers, and how you kind of manage that. Yeah. So I suppose for us, it's first of all, it's having it like just clear like data, objective data. Okay, are you tracking everything?
Okay.
What are in each person's key kind of metrics? So like for us, obviously leads come in and then you have a percentage of they get to each step and then percentage you close. So it's making it clear at the start, like, okay, obviously this job's performance driven and you're going to be monitored on those kind of key metrics and targets. But also it's like with a sales role, like it's better to have it commission based rather than just a base kind of salary, because ultimately they're hungry to drive sales as high as possible, which ultimately is going to benefit myself for kind of growth. So it's probably how you structure the agreement with the person in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's not letting it just drift on. Like, if there's so
let's break this down a bit then. So we've got different types of roles within our business. So when we talk about variable performance, we have to be careful about actually understanding what the performance requirements are for each of the roles. Okay. So you've talked about a sales role and whether you do it commission based or not, always love to have that conversation and debate. And how do we keep people hungry on that stage? But let's talk about some other roles within a business then. Starting condition would be a business, that wrote in with this question. They probably don't have any real definition of roles and structures and performance. So where would be a good starting condition then? What would they want to start with first of all to help define these things?
Yeah, I suppose it stems from when you're hiring them and the role description, like what actually is their
Yeah,
day-to-day task? What should they be doing on a day-to-day basis? Like make it
yeah,
abundantly clear is like, this is your responsibility from day to day. This is what you're doing.
yeah.
So they know from the get-go, that's their role.
Yeah, and I think we have to be careful about tasks, maybe, because especially in a small business, there's lots of things that need to get done by each of the different roles that we have. But an outline of the responsibility, which I like the word use, of the outcome of that role, the structure of it, and I always like to also think about this part of it, which is what is your part to play within the growth and the development of the business? Actually, that should be in the role profile. How does the business cover your salary? Because a lot of people will turn up and they will look at all the tasks they need to do and the things that need to get done. But actually, if in the description we're talking about how your salary is generated, then actually you've got a better understanding of the importance of what needs to be achieved for moving forwards.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate with that. And I suppose Aaron, our kind of operations manager, is like, okay, I want him to obviously do his job. He's doing amazing at his job, but part of it is like, how can we help you grow as a person? How
Yeah,
can we help
brilliant,
in other
brilliant.
aspects? Like we're helping him get on the property ladder, investing in property himself, like
Yes,
away from work, if that makes sense.
fantastic. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant.
So there's different, things like that.
So we now talked about performance management. So within a role profile, we can define 2 or 3 key metrics that define the output of that role. But in a small business, that's often harder because maybe we have lots of things that role initially needs to get done. So we have to try and pick what the most important parts are for generating the growth of the business, for generating the salary. What's important that I developed over many years in the corporate world as well is if you report that number to them, they won't own it. But if they can track that number themselves and they report that number, whether you do that monthly, quarterly, weekly, it doesn't really matter, but they take ownership of reporting that number, they then get that better buy-in, because what we can get hung up on is you didn't achieve this. No, actually, they need to stand up to the plate and say, you know what? This isn't performing right. This isn't working. So understanding how you measure people and how that they actually do the reporting and they do the update of where we are. Let them bring those to the party. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I suppose this is probably something we didn't do at first, but have started to do. So part of the weekly call that I mentioned is like different people from the business will bring their key kind of KPIs or whatever you want to call it, whether it's like revenue, whether it's occupancy rate, whether it's the guest reviews. They'll bring those for the past week or the month or whatever it is and share those with the team. So there is that level of accountability, as I suppose, as well, which really important, and they actually own it, as you were kind of indicating before,
Yeah.
rather than it just being a meaningless figure.
Yeah, and even in my business, there's only 2 of us, and we have a weekly meeting, and we both have 4 or 5 numbers that we declare. Yeah, we live together and work together. Yeah, you have a family affair, but we still report on numbers because these are our numbers that we own, that help the business run, help to tick it over. Some weeks they're down, some weeks they're up. But we can then see the trends over time, and we can help each other then to go to the real important thing, which is how do we close the gap? If we're not hitting what we want to achieve, how do we close the gap? If we are achieving what we want to achieve, do we need to increase the number, or do we need to bring another number in? Because what often happens, and this was the bit that I learned long time ago, that we can very good at keep increasing numbers, and just putting pressure on people to excel in something that maybe doesn't need to be excelled anything more in. But how do we enrich their skill set? Challenge them. That's when we could bring in a different number that would help to grow. Some of them are important. They just need to go up and up and up. But others are ways of enriching the role over time of things. And any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's something that I've noticed is my understanding grown within each role, if that makes sense. So before I wouldn't have had a clue of how to track certain metrics, but I suppose the more time in the business, the more you learn. And yeah, as you said, the performance metrics can grow. So
Yeah.
yeah, whereas we might have just looked at revenue for kind of booking performance, there's probably 5 or 6 other metrics that we kind of track, or which are really important as well.
And somebody then, we've got this good tracking number in place. We've got a good role description that helps people understand, where they're playing in the business and how they need to measure up in order for the business to be successful. With their support, their growth. And I love what you said about helping people, not just in the business, but outside the business to grow and develop. I think that's absolutely brilliant. One of our principles of our business is grow your people so they grow your business. This question probably came out initially from this organization that reached out to me and said, could you ask this question? Is how do we manage the performance when it's not working? So if somebody isn't delivering for you, and you've talked about some difficult VAs that you've had, how have you gone about dealing with that situation when we aren't hitting what we expected them to hit?
Yeah, and I suppose it's situationally dependent. It's going to be based on how far they off you want them to be. If there's just a complete chasm of difference between you and where they want to be, then it's probably good to cut ties and move on to the next person. Or but if there's like you see potential in someone and there's just bits where you can see, okay, this is what you're doing wrong. This is where we can invest a bit more training in to help you elevate you to that level. Then it's worth that investment. So I suppose it depends at how far they are off the level they need to be and the gaps you can kind of identify, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And an expression that I learned many years ago when I was trained by some Japanese master engineers is this idea of being human first, being strict, but being fair. And this understanding that, we're all humans, we all think differently, we all react differently, we all think of things differently. Yeah, just because it's in your head one way doesn't mean that's the right way, doesn't mean it's the only way that things need to do. So understanding humans, being strict. The strict is the business has to achieve. This thing has to get done. Our customers have to be delighted. Yeah, there are non-negotiables within any role. And these are the strict things that we have to talk about and make sure are being delivered. But being fair, and that's the understanding of situations, understanding of what's going on, understanding that maybe we bring outside influences to work and we need to fix those as well. Sometimes that human, strict, but fair is a real good approach. And the best way of doing that I was taught and I've used is that expression of it's easier to nudge a tiller to keep your boat in the right direction rather than not doing it for a long time and having to do a big change on that tiller. So it's those little short conversations that are really powerful. Saying to somebody, look, I noticed on Monday that the numbers weren't quite right. What are we going to do on that? Or how are you going to do that? How can I help you achieve that number? Because it's so important to us as a business. You know what? I noticed that there wasn't a very good conversation with a client last week. I didn't think that was professional enough. What do you think? How would you define whether that was good enough? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? How are you going to do that? So it's those little nudges on a regular basis are the things that can actually steer your conversation so you don't end up having to do those. How do we deal with those difficult people that are not working? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great insight. Because I suppose I've noticed this, and it's better for us because we're all working in the same office. Like everyone's kind of since COVID, if they've gone remote, you don't have that chance to observe people doing different things. You wouldn't have picked up on stuff. Where if I see my operations manager handling something in a certain way, I could say, maybe next time, do you think about we could potentially handle it like this? What do you think? And then we can have those conversations and we can pad it out, and together we can come to like, okay, next time this is how we're going to handle this.
Yeah.
So there's that role, like everyone's constantly improving and feeding off each other, which is why it's so much easier to do because we are in person and we can see what all of us are doing and there's complete transparency. So we try to, in our business, we try to have as many conversations as possible. No one takes it personally. So which is so good. Everyone challenges each other.
Brilliant. Talking negative because that was the question about underperforming people or variable performance. You can have variable performance if you grow the same number of people in a team, absolutely. But it's also really important to be human of praise. Well done. That was awesome. I love that conversation you did. Well done hitting those numbers. Fantastic. The leader, I was challenged many years ago to how many times a day do you say thank you? And I worked it out and it wasn't many. And I got challenged to be a minimum of 10 times. I thought, what? But actually my teams were really strong and powerful from that point onwards by me walking around and making sure, and also because I had remote teams, phoning them up and just saying thank you 10 times a day, built a real strength of character within a team that didn't exist before. So don't forget that its positive side of reward is far greater than the negative. How are we going to fix that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I can for sure see that. And it's part of that's it's so rewarding for me because I can see someone acting in line with kind of my vision as the business owner. So for me, if I can see that, it's like, wow, that's amazing. Well done, Aaron. Well done, Miles. So that's what I want to see. And yeah, definitely. It's not just negative, it's positive as well, for sure. Completely agree with that.
Awesome. Dan, let's do our wrap up and close now. What did you hear yourself say today that maybe surprised you?
Good question. It's kind of made me realize, wow, how quickly we've been on this journey. I suppose just talking it out loud from when we started a few years ago to where we are today with 6 people, it's going to be more from next week, how far we've come in a relatively short period of time. And until you actually talk it through, you don't, I suppose, really appreciate what you have achieved because you're stuck in the day to day all the time. So yeah, I suppose for me, it's just reflecting on that process, which it's been, I've done quite a lot actually.
Yeah, you have indeed. It's been fantastic growth and development. So finally, Dan, where can people find more of you if they want to follow your journey?
Yeah, for sure that everyone can find us, online at Signature Stays. If you type us in, you'll be able to find us. You book a call with me to have a conversation. Otherwise, we have a physical office presence. We're right by the brewery site in Cheltenham. It's called Henrietta Street. So feel free to pop in. We can make you a coffee, have a free to chat about anything property related, or just if you just want to have a chat. So yeah, one person, or you can find us online.
Awesome. Dan, thank you so much for being open and honest today. I know our listeners will get a lot from this conversation. It's been awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. No, loved it. Thank you.
Thanks for spending your time with us today. We're on a mission to make business owners stronger together. If this conversation's helped you, please like, comment and follow on whatever platform you're using. About 60% of our audience hasn't done that yet, and these small actions will help us reach more owners just like you. If you want to join in the conversation as a guest, or you have a hurdle question for us to tackle, reach out to us at info@strongerbusinesstogether.com. Now, go make this week successful, and we'll see you next time. Cheers!